How's it going, folks? So recently, Jinks uploaded a video, and I'm going to leave the link in the description because he does make a lot of good points with this video. And honestly, I think more people should see this video. And I want to continue on the conversation with this a little bit because I do tend to agree with him in a lot of these topics, and I actually see a lot of the arguments he makes transcend into other areas. A prime example would be is the fact that there are a lot of people who don't really care about an issue until it affects them personally or affects somebody they know personally. And then all of a sudden, they either want to change the rules right then and there, or they want to act as if the rules do not apply to them. And unfortunately, this is the type of society we have come into where the average person does not think more than 5 feet in front of them at times. Sometimes even if that. And it's kind of hard to get them to understand that. It's true, the average person is not a chronic pain patient and doesn't have any idea of what it's like to be a chronic pain patient. So therefore, they're not thinking about what happens if I become a chronic pain patient. Will I need a certain type of painkiller that is now pretty much prohibited? They don't think about stuff like that. The average person, I can assure you, doesn't think about, will I get into a car accident the next time I get behind the wheel of a car? The average person doesn't think, well, hey, I really should have a fire extinguisher too at my place just in case it catches on fire, or anything of that nature. This is the type of society we've bred. Furthermore, I think that we have a bigger problem than we want to realize with that, or what we would want to admit with that. We have people who seem to think that if we just pass enough legislation, if we just write enough laws, that somehow we're going to legislate bad things out of existence. And we're just going to legislate ourselves into a nice little bubble wrap utopia. And that's just simply not going to happen. And it's unfortunate that you do have people who seem to think that that will be the case. Unfortunately, you do have those types of people out there, and I think that they are probably the biggest reason why we are in the regulatory mess we are in nowadays. Because anytime anything bad happens, what's the first reaction a lot of people tend to have? Let's get the government to pass another law. I mean, a lot of them conveniently forget that, well, hey, maybe that government law that was already on the books contributed to the situation they're in. Maybe it was their own mentality of saying, well, let's let the government handle it. Prevented them from doing the things that they needed to prepare to either prevent, mitigate, or deal with the situation a bit better. And now they're going back to the same thing that didn't work before, but they're going to try to get it to work again. With that being said, unfortunately, I mean, you do have people that are under that false pretense that the government can legislate us into a bubble wrapped utopia, and yet the very one thing they could have done, to possibly make their own situation better, it seems like it's a forgotten tool. It's a forgotten art, and that is take some personal responsibility for yourself. And Jinks mentions this too. Although, I have to say, I think if you're taking 500 dicks a day, your chances go to a certainty when it comes to catching an STD at that point, I would imagine. Still, the fact of the matter is, if you choose that lifestyle, you have to understand that there are going to be some possibilities that come with it. Just the same as if you choose to take opiates recreationally, you have to understand that opiates are an addictive substance, and you assume the risk of becoming addicted once you take them. And I think that Jinks has the right idea with this. Allow the doctor to prescribe the opiates necessary for pain medication, and let the person discuss this with their doctor. And I'm also, again, not opposed to people recreationally doing this stuff, should they choose. It's just, okay, you know the risks. You're a grown adult. You take the risks, and it's on you from here on out. I'm very much so in favor of that type of society. It's a much freer society. Because, we look at the alternate right now, our war on drugs. Does anyone think that our war on drugs has done anything but create a more favorable market towards the illicit trade or the illicit market? You haven't really gotten rid of the drugs or the drug users. Instead, all you've done is push them to the underground market, and you've given the criminal element a good source of funding. It's just like the outright bans on prostitution. Does anyone think that they did a good job with that? Or have we instead created a market for human traffickers to get their hands into? For people who are selling others as sex slaves? I tend to think the latter is more true. And the fact of the matter is that, people are going to engage in these behaviors, whether it's legal or not. And the only thing you do by making it illegal is just put it in the hands of the people who are most willing to break the law in order to get their profits. And these people generally, I should say, generally speaking, do not care about the well-beings of their clients or their employees. So, wouldn't it be better just to remove the prohibitions on these things and instead make them part of the legal market again, to where people can make a legitimate profit off of them? If an employee is being abused, make it so they don't have to fear going to law enforcement. Make it so if there is a tainted product being distributed, that there is a place to report them. And while this isn't going to be a perfect world, it is going to be a little freer. And there is going to be a bit more accountability there. I mean, think of it. If you're going to get your opiates and you were going to do it anyway, which would you go to? The guy on the street corner who doesn't have any QC whatsoever? He's just trying to make a quick buck, or the established business that is selling it, that does care about the reputation and does care about the quality of the product to a degree, if only to remain compliant with the law. I would imagine that most people would rather get their stuff from a more legitimate source that they can trust a little bit more than the person selling it on the streets. So, for all the people who think we can bubble wrap the world with enough legislation, just know that you're kind of forcing the man on the street option when you go with the idea of we're going to bubble wrap something. Now, that being said, there are a number of other areas to where people have this mentality. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think the biggest thing we're going to have to fight with this is this conditioning that most people tend to have, the idea that with enough legislation, you're going to make the world a safer and better place. And that's just simply not the case. And usually, often what starts out with moderate restrictions or moderate regulations, as a lot of these people call it, oftentimes do turn into an outright prohibition. That's just the nature of government in and of itself, too. So, for those of y'all who've been watching this long, thank y'all for watching. Y'all take her easy out there. You got the comment section below, as always. Have a great day.